Hi everyone, it's Jason here. In our last video, we learned how to create a website with our site builder. Now we're going to be adding a booking form to it. So once you've logged in, you'll want to click Website, Website Setup. Scroll down, click Save. And from the drop-down, we'll select Booking Form Settings. Now this page features most of the settings that will drive a lot of our booking form functionality. If you're ever unsure as to what a particular setting does, you just have to click the question mark next to the setting. All right, so the first setting we'll talk about is invoice pricing. So if we want actual dollars to be calculated on the booking form, we'll select calculate invoice in dollars. If you don't want to show exactly what the service will cost at that time, you can just show the hourly rate on your booking form. And if you don't want your booking form to show any dollars, your hourly rate or the total of the service, you would just select don't show rates or dollars. Where this is useful is if you're wanting to maybe just collect information from the client and then you can quote them at a later time. Payment method is our next option. So on our checkout, we have the option of showing the Stripe form where we can actually charge the client's card. We can also show them some payment options. Here they can indicate what type of payment they'll use after the service has been completed. And then lastly, we can select or show both of these options to the user. How we control that is with this payment method setting. And essentially, if you just want the Stripe form to show, you'll select this first option. If you want both of the options to be shown, you'll use the second option. Lastly, if you just want the other payment options to be shown, you'll indicate that the customer has to pay after booking. We'll select this one here so that we show both the Stripe form and the other payment options. Next, we can indicate what types of payments we'll accept from the customer. We'll select cash, credit card, debit card. Next, we've got our charge option. So because we're including a Stripe payment form on our checkout, we have the option of actually charging the card at checkout. Alternatively, we can just collect the credit card details at checkout so that we can charge the card ourselves after the service has been completed. And if we select this option, the user will be informed on the checkout itself. There'll be a note here that indicates that their card will only be charged after service has been rendered. All right, so the next few fields relate to Stripe. So basically, in order for you to accept credit card payments on your website, you need a Stripe account. It's a free account. It only takes a few minutes to set up. And after doing so, you just have to grab a few of the keys from within your Stripe account and add them into this page. This basically just allows PageSmack to communicate with your Stripe account so that credit card transactions can be processed. And if you don't already have a Stripe account or don't know where to find these keys, that's not a problem. You'll want to watch one of our other tutorials on Stripe where we cover that specifically. For now, I'm just going to add a few test keys in here so that we can move on with the tutorial. And you'll find that if you add these keys and try to process a transaction, obviously it won't work. All right, next is our default coupon. So if you're running a promotion and say you're wanting to offer 10% off of all bookings, what you'd want to do is set up a coupon from within our platform and then just come in here and select it. Next, we've got the days before payment is due option. And I'll just explain this one with an example. So let's say someone puts through a booking, they indicate that they'll be paying cash. If they book for, say, July 1st, given the fact that this is set to 7, on the invoice, it'll indicate the payment is due on July 8th. All right, so the next option we'll look at is the start time window. Some businesses like to provide exact arrival times, but on busy days, obviously, it can be challenging to make some of these appointments at the exact time. So if you want your customer to know that you'll arrive within, say, a 2-hour window from the time they select, we'll enter 2 in the field here. And then it shows up like this on the booking form. So we see a range as indicated by plus or minus 1 hour after they've selected the time that they're interested in. All right, the next one is start time intervals. If you want clients to be able to select from, say, 9, 9:30, 10 a.m. as options, we'll select 30 minutes. If you want your selections to be limited by hour, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., obviously we'll select the 60-minute interval. All right, length of booking. So the time slots that are available on your booking form represent your real-time availability. And in order to calculate that real-time availability, every appointment within your calendar obviously needs a length of time. So here you're given the option of setting a fixed amount of time for one booking. In this case, it's 1 hour. We can also make this more dynamic by setting it to 1 hour per $100 of item total. So as an example, if someone puts through a booking for $300 worth of services, essentially the length of that appointment would be 3 hours in this case. Right, next is our rolling blackout period. And this setting really just controls when the customer can actually start to book appointments on your booking form. So if you set this to 1 day, they'll be able to book as early as tomorrow. If you set this to 2 days, they'll be able to book 2 days out. And the next is minimum employees for availability. So this controls the minimum number of employees that have to be available across all of your teams before a time slot is shown as being available. So for example, if each job takes 2 employees and there's only 1 employee who is free for a given time slot, that time slot will not be shown as being available given the fact that this is set to 2. All right, so the next one is auto scheduling. So once you've set up your employees and teams, which we'll actually cover in a future tutorial, they can have bookings automatically scheduled to them if this switch is enabled. And we'll cover how auto scheduling works in a future video, but I highly recommend that you enable this feature. It works really well, and it's going to save you a lot of time as it always schedules the most appropriate team to the job. And the next option is only entire team. So this one you may have to click the question mark to see what that means, but I'll explain it here. If this is enabled, the auto scheduler will only assign a job to a team if everyone on that team is available during that time slot. So this ensures that partial teams are not booked for the job. All right, the next field is business email address. Following a customer's booking on your site, a booking confirmation will be sent to the customer as well as you. And whatever email address you indicate here is the email address that the booking confirmation will be sent to. All right, so we've also got the booking form note field. So this is really just a note that appears at the top of your booking form. It's entirely optional. Here you might want to indicate any sales that you might be having, for example. Booking form note 2. So this note will be displayed under the special instructions section of your booking form. You can use this area to outline policies or information that is essential that the customer understands prior to completing the booking. So for example, in this section, you may want to indicate a cancellation policy if you have one. And again, as a reminder, you can see what the purpose for each of these notes is by just clicking on the question mark next to the field. So the next field we'll be talking about is the instructions request field. So if you have a question for the customer, such as maybe how you'll access their property at the time of booking, you can indicate that here. And then as the customer is kind of completing the booking, they'll add that information or response to your question. Right, the booking success message is the next one. So once the user has completed their booking, They can be shown a message at the top of the screen. In this case, we've just simply thanked them for their booking. You can customize this message to be whatever you want. Payment success message, it's very much the same idea. After the customer has completed payment, they'll be shown a message as indicated here. And then finally, we've got the invoice note. So upon completing the booking, the visitor will receive a copy of the invoice or booking confirmation via email. If you want to add a specific message at the bottom of these invoices or booking confirmations, you can set that message here. All right, so we'll go to the next page. So we've designed our booking form to work with pretty much any service-based business. And I'm sure, as you're all aware, pricing for a given service may depend on some factor or a number of factors. So in this tutorial, we're setting up a booking form for a cleaning business, and our pricing is going to be based on the size of a client's house. As a result, we need the user to indicate the size of their house at the time of booking. And what we can do is simply ask them for the number of bedrooms and bathrooms that exist in their house. And the way we can do this is by setting up what we call a primary service driver. And they're named this simply because they drive the cost of the service. Now, fortunately, the setup that you see here comes as default when you select home cleaning as your industry, but we'll have a look at how this works. So we'll click Edit on the Bedrooms option. Now, the configuration of one of these primary service drivers is pretty straightforward. We start with the name of the thing that we want to collect from the user, and in this case, it's the number of bedrooms. So we've got bedrooms in the title. Next, we have to add the singular version of the title, which is bedroom. This is so that when we display the list of options to the user, we don't display one bedrooms, but rather one bedroom. It's a small detail, but we think it's an important one. Next, we can indicate the number of bedrooms that this user can select from. So in this case, the minimum number that they'll be able to select is 1, the maximum number is 6, and these options will increment by 1. If we were setting this driver to be square footage, we may want the increment to be 100, for example. In this case, 1 bedroom makes sense so that they can select 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Right, so we'll save this one. If you want to add additional drivers, you can certainly do that. You just have to click Create Service Driver. Now let's get into our primary services. So the primary services are the major services that you offer to your customers. So if we were to use a cleaning business as an example, these I guess primary services might include a move-in, move-out clean, deep clean, base cleaning, these sorts of things. We can configure up to 10 different primary services, and each primary service can be set up with its own unique pricing structure. So let's look at how we can create and configure a primary service. So we'll click Create Primary Service, and we'll title this one Special Cleaning. Right, so if you want, you can add a brief description of what this service covers. I'd keep this pretty short. If the customer wants more information on what a particular service entails, they can reference one of the pages that you've created to explain your services in detail. And we'll actually cover the creation of that page setup in our website setup video, which you may or may not have already seen. Now, there are 3 ways that you can really price a service. You can select a base fee for the service. When this is selected, the cost will be a fixed amount. In this case, this wouldn't really make sense because some houses are bigger than others, and it wouldn't really work to only charge a fixed amount for any cleaning service. Alternatively, we can base the pricing on the service drivers that we just set up by selecting service drivers. So for example, we can say that it's going to cost $75 per bedroom and $50 per bathroom. So let's enter that here so you can see what that looks like. 75 per bedroom, $50 per bathroom. We're also given the option of indicating some sale pricing, which we won't get into right now. And with these options set, we also have the ability to set a base fee. This will be charged regardless of the size of a person's house. We could enter $25 here to cover maybe travel, for example. The third option is to select hours and workers. And here the user has to select how many workers they need and for how many hours. And so what we can do is start by indicating an hourly rate of 50. Next, we have to define the minimum, maximum, and increment for the hours that will be displayed as options on the booking form. So we can say a minimum of 1 hour, maximum of 8, and an increment of 1, so that they'll be able to select 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, for example. And then next we have to select, or rather indicate, some details around the staff that they'll be able to select from. So we need to enter the title of our workers. We'll say cleaners. Cleaners, the singular version, and we'll select the minimum number of hours as being 2, maximum of 6, and the increment of 2. So in this case, they'll be able to select from 2, 4, or 6 workers. All right, so now that I've kind of gone over the different methods by which you can price a given primary service, what we're going to do is just move back to the service drivers. This particular service is going to be based on the size of a person's house. So we'll say, once again, bedrooms are 75, bathrooms are 50. And we'll save that. All right, so let's have a look at our booking form to see how this looks. Just going to uncheck these other options. All right, so we see here that special cleaning is available, and we can select from between 1 and 6 bedrooms. And as I'm making these changes, you'll notice that in the booking summary section, the price automatically updates based on our selection, which is pretty nice. All right, so let's go back to our setup to see how we can configure and add optional add-ons. All right, so this page provides you with an opportunity to set up optional extras that the customer will be able to select from at their time of booking. There's several defaults that are pre-populated based on the industry that we selected, in this case, home cleaning. But for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to configure pricing for just a couple of them. And I should also note that you can create these extras for yourself just by clicking Create Extra Service. But we'll look at one of the defaults that's been created for us. So we'll click on Inside Oven. So to start, obviously we have to indicate the title of the service that we're providing, which is here. If we want this optional extra to be displayed on our booking form, we need to ensure that this is enabled. Next, we can provide a very brief description of what the service or extra includes, but this is obviously not required. Now, in the case of this service, because it's one of our default services, it comes with the default icon, as you can see here. Now, if you're creating a service for yourself, you have a couple options. You can upload maybe an icon that you've bought or created. If you don't want to take that route, you can just leave this field blank, and what shows up on your booking form is just a plus icon next to the service, which works perfectly fine as well. All right, so when it comes to pricing, we can really base the price of this optional service on one of 3 different things. So the price can be a flat rate. Maybe we say that it's $20 to clean the inside of a person's oven. As you know, some people may have multiple or a couple ovens in their house. So in that case, maybe it makes more sense to select a second option of user supplied quantity. So if we select this option, this actually requires the customer to indicate the number of ovens that they have in their house. I'll say number of ovens. That works. And then in the amount field, this indicates the price per unit. So if the customer selects or indicates that they have 2 ovens in their home, it'll multiply that by 20, and the total cost of this extra will be $40. So we'll stick with this configuration. To demonstrate the third method of pricing, what I'm going to do is go into the indoor walls service. So for the cleaning of walls, it would make a lot of sense if this service was based on the price of, or rather the size of someone's house, right? The larger the house, the more the service should cost. So under the cost based on option, we've got the third method selected, which is primary service drivers. And here we're given the ability to indicate what this service will cost for some of the primary service drivers that we've set up. So here I've indicated that the cost of the service will be $15 per bedroom, $10 per bathroom. So we'll save this. And once again, to see how that looks, we'll go back into our booking form. We'll refresh. And we'll just see how this looks. All right, so when we click on inside of ovens, we get the option of entering the number of ovens in our house. Let's say we've got 3. So we've got $20 times 3. The selection of this is automatically reflected in our item total. Next, we've got the indoor wall options, right? So we indicated, what was it, $15 per bedroom, $10 per bathroom. So if we change our bathrooms from 1 to 2, you'll see this go up by $10. And if we select it, the total cost of our service also increases in the booking summary, which is pretty handy. All right, so let's go back to our settings. Go to the next page now that we've covered how to set up our optional extras. All right, so this next page is for our teams. So to start, I should mention that one team will already be created for you as you go through this process. It's kind of a default. We can go into one of these teams just to see what they look like. So we've got the team name, team description, an option that indicates whether or not we want this team to be auto-scheduled to jobs as they come up. And then we've got our regular working hours. We indicate the start time and the duration of the shift. And then lastly, we're given the option of adding team members to this team. Right, so at this point, we haven't gone through the full employee and team configuration yet, so I'm just going to save this page, but we certainly do have another tutorial that covers those topics. And we'll go next. Next is our terms and conditions page. So if you have any terms and conditions that you'd like customers to agree to before submitting their booking, you can add them here. We've provided some defaults, and I should mention that if you intend on letting customers pay for their bookings via Stripe, this section is extremely important. From time to time, Stripe will actually audit its customers and their websites to ensure that those websites clearly outline the terms and conditions of the sales that they make. And if a website doesn't adequately explain its terms, Stripe may permanently block that customer from using their platform. So I would suggest that you definitely pay attention to this section. Like I mentioned, there's defaults provided, but you'll need to review them and update them and add to them to reflect your company's policies. So we'll just skip over this one now. We'll just stick with the defaults. Right, last thing is the site content and address page. So this page in particular really controls some of the major components that will display on our website. So in our case, we want to display a booking form on the website. We also want this short form to appear on our homepage that really invites customers to initiate their booking by indicating their first name, email, phone number. They can select the service as well. And if we scroll down, we've got the client portal switch. In our case, we want to enable the client portals. We'll select that. We will indicate here that we're using a PageSpec powered website as opposed to a third-party website. And we've got our domain indicated here since we're on the free plan. Rather, the subdomain, I should say. All right, so we'll save. All right, so that's pretty much it. Our booking form is now configured. So now that it's all set up, maybe let's complete one from start to finish. So I'll just uncheck some of these options so that we can start from the beginning. All right, so from the service dropdown, we have an opportunity to select the primary service that we want to book for. We'll select special cleaning. We'll indicate that our home is 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We'll indicate that we've got 1 oven that we need cleaning, and we'd like the indoor walls to be cleaned as well. For 17th at 10 a.m. And this is just a one-time cleaning. Next, we'll indicate our name. I will say I'm going to indicate an email address here that doesn't actually exist because I don't want this confirmation sent to any person. And we'll indicate that our billing address is the same as our home address. And we're interested in receiving a text message reminder of our upcoming appointment, so we'll select that. And we will agree to the privacy policy and terms and conditions. All right, so when we were completing the booking form setup, we actually, I suppose we indicated that we would charge the card after service is complete. And so we can see a note here indicating that. So we'll still enter. Actually, you know what, instead of doing that, we'll just use pay later because obviously the Stripe keys that I indicated during the booking form setup are not valid. And so this form won't work at this time. But for this demo, we'll select that we are going to pay later with a credit card. And we'll submit this. All right, there we go. So just a warning up here indicating that the email was not delivered to because it doesn't exist, which we expected. But we do have our booking confirmation, which looks like this. This will be emailed to the customer immediately after they complete their booking. All right, so that's pretty much it for this video. If you do have any questions about anything that we covered, feel free to submit a ticket or contact us using the details on the Contact Us page. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.